Welcome back to the Third and One podcast. It's the three-man wrecking crew. You already know what it do. It's Nick, Sam, Tim, and Josh. Before we get into our main topic for today, we do have a viewer question, so we're going to discuss that first. Let's hear the viewer question.
All right, so our viewer question was, what do the Bucks need to do this offseason to win a title next year? Personally, I think they need to trade for at least one good two-way guard to be able to lead their team and to be able to take some ball handling stress off of Giannis and Middleton. Add some more defense. If you can keep Eric Bledsoe, that's cool, but I don't know if you're going to be able to in this scenario. I think they should trade for either Jrue Holiday or Chris Paul. Holiday may be a little bit more attainable considering they don't have many trade assets. I could see them trading salary fill, maybe like a okay young player like DJ Wilson. I don't know if he's a free agent or not. And then this year's pick, although I don't know if they can trade that right now. That'd have to be a draft night trade. And then
Jrue Holiday, they put Jrue Holiday on the block. They've put Jrue Holiday on the block.
Yeah, Jrue Holiday's on the block.
Yep.
Cheetos and a fat chick?
Okay.
You'd be surprised.
And probably a pick in let's say 2023 draft. Because they can't trade next year's pick because of the Stepien rule. And 2022, 2023, 2024, one of those picks. I think that can land you Jrue Holiday. That might be enough of a return.
Oh,
maybe they want a little bit more. I don't know.
I think the best, looking at it as a what would fit best. I think Chris Paul would fit best in that Bucks lineup. Although I don't think that he ends up landing there because I don't know. I just don't see a Bucks Thunder trade really working out. I don't know how it would work out.
Salary wise, that's not going to work.
And that's another thing too. But if we're just looking at it from a fit wise, Chris Paul works very well in that offense.
Not really.
Yeah, he does.
No, because Chris
with
Paul
Giannis. Chris Paul and Giannis could be a great duo.
I strongly disagree. I think Giannis will bring Chris Paul down.
It might work a little bit.
No, because Chris Paul, we know he's one of the best leaders in the NBA, and that's something that Giannis needs. And Chris Paul is a great playmaker for Giannis.
He is the leader.
What?
I thought Giannis was Mamba mentality. I thought he was the leader.
He's more of a duo leader. He's more of I've made this point clear. He's not your number one alpha dog leader guy. He's with another player. They morph together to become two incredible leaders.
This guy go from top 10
but he needs a leader.
So he can't be the best player on the team in a championship team. What?
Okay, no one said he can't be the best player on the team.
You guys just said he needs a leader.
Okay, the leader isn't always the best player on a team.
There's a difference.
There's a difference.
Oh,
You're not putting that together.
For the Miami Heat, you need Juwan Howard.
What?
You're not putting this together, dude.
What?
You're really.
Give me an example, then. Give me an example.
Quit nitpicking, please.
The Warriors. No, the Warriors. Curry was the
Warriors.
leader.
Curry
on the
was
team,
the leader. KD was the better player.
What?
What do you mean? What? That's clearly what it was.
What made Curry the leader?
He was been the heart and soul of the system for 5 years.
He was the point guard. That just means the point guard.
And the heart and the soul of the offense because he would take one man had to follow him the entire time, taking other players off of him. Curry had the most experience with the team.
So are we saying that the point guard is
and Giannis would still be the leader?
So are we saying that Curry
one of the leaders? He needs another guy though.
Tim, are you saying that the point guard is always the heart and soul of the team?
No, that's what you're saying.
No, I'm not.
What?
How have you just flipped this on me? I just said why Curry, and you guys said he's the point guard.
Nope.
That's what Sam said.
I never said he's the point guard. I said he's the offense. He's the system.
So is Giannis.
Yeah.
So then Giannis.
So I'm saying he needs another leader figure.
Okay. All right.
Anyway,
I don't see how that's
Jrue Holiday.
Compare him to this is a really weird comparison. Compare him to a young Orlando Shaq type of thing.
I don't think I can because it doesn't match in my brain.
He needed Penny Hardaway to succeed.
Oh, who's Penny
to
Hardaway?
Be another
Jrue Holiday?
We're saying Chris Paul potentially, but I'm saying Jrue Holiday might be more attainable.
Yes, I'm saying fit-wise, Chris Paul's the better fit,
I
but
don't
Drew
know, man.
Holiday's the
If
more
Chris Paul-
realistic
no
thing
offense
that
to
could
Chris
happen.
Paul, but if Chris Paul can't succeed with James Harden in the West, I don't see him succeeding with Giannis, who can't even beat anybody in the East.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
And he's also older now.
Well, Chris Paul's also the thing is Chris Paul is not going to the Bucks because he's already made it clear that he wants to go to New York or the Lakers if he gets traded.
Who says? Yeah, I
Ask him, bro. I don't know. Ask him. Ask
they're
him.
They're gonna build like the weirdest team in New York, and it's gonna like be the 6th seed and flail out in the playoffs.
God, he's like, I want to play with Julius
They're
Randle.
they're gonna sign like 3 more power forwards.
Seriously.
They're gonna crush my heart. Steal Christian Wood. They're gonna trade for Chris Paul. They're gonna sign Fred VanVleet for $25 million a year. They're gonna make the 6th seed and lose in 4.
What a shame.
I don't even know if they go that far. Does anybody else have anything else to add on that question?
In my opinion, I think everything about this team is internal. And so when I say that, what I mean by that is that so one of the comparisons that I've seen a lot with the story arc of Giannis's career is LeBron. But one thing that I want to argue about LeBron is that when we look at teams like LeBron's in the East, we knew every year that LeBron was like carrying those teams. They got to the playoffs. You knew that LeBron had to step it up a little bit if they were going to win those games. And you knew that the guys around, well, whatever. You knew the guys around him were going to do the same thing they did all year long. They weren't going to be anything special. They were going to be pretty bad, to be completely honest, but that was it. When we look at this Bucks team, the last 2 years they've gotten to the playoffs, they just flame out. It's inexcusable that this team fails to adjust when they need to adjust. And when I say that, I mean that in the terms of Budenholzer's rotations were despicable, and they need to be better. Giannis played pretty poorly in that second round until literally the final game or the second to last game when he got hurt. Chris Middleton was not good. I saw a stat that Chris Middleton. I saw a stat that in the bubble. I saw a stat that in the bubble, including the postseason, Chris Middleton shot by far the worst of any player on paint shots. He shot below 40% on paint shots in the bubble.
I mean,
that is no.
Sure.
Absolutely inexcusable. Especially
that is inexcusable, but that's also not his game.
Awful. I don't care if that's not his game. That is awful. That can't happen.
Yes, okay, but like
again, we see Eric Bledsoe all the time. Eric Bledsoe had a great year defensively. I get that. Playoff time comes. I didn't see him that much.
It's a running meme.
And again, like honestly, the only dude that practically met their expectations, and even then, I don't even know if I'm going to say they met their expectations, was Brook Lopez. And again,
he was pretty good.
Yeah, he was all right. But the problem is that I can look at this Milwaukee Bucks team and say that team can win the East. I can look at that team and say Giannis does not need to carry the load on this team for them to win the East. He's still going to have to average like 28, 12, and 5, but that's just who he is as a player. He's going to do that irregardless. But then when you get to the playoffs, it's absolutely inexcusable that you don't put up that production again. That can't happen. So I would argue that the Bucks move this offseason is that they need to actually learn from the mistakes that they've had in these playoffs so far. Adding some other guy isn't going to work if they don't change. If Budenholzer refuses to play Giannis more than 36 minutes in an important playoff game, they will not win. If Chris Middleton refuses to show up in the fourth quarter late in games, they will not win. If Eric Bledsoe chooses that he's going to be a defensive player during the regular season and then not show up at all in the postseason, nothing will change for this Bucks team. It has nothing to do with a player that they need to acquire or anything like that. This Bucks problem is entirely internal.
I mean, I don't think that the Bucks win the title with this team. Like, even if they figure it out internal, they're not winning the title with this team.
How many teams do you think could beat the Bucks in this East?
In the East?
Yeah.
No, this is about winning the title.
No, I understand, but I'm asking you right now. They need to get there first. They need to get there first. I don't care about a title. They need to get there first.
Teams that could beat them in the East, there's 2 teams.
3.
You say Boston, you need to leave. You say Boston, you need to leave.
No, not Boston.
Can't wait for this. I say Brooklyn can beat them as long as Brooklyn stays healthy. And again, you have to remember, They have two absolute superstars on their team, and Kevin Durant, who's a top 15 player ever, and Kyrie, who's one of the most creative point guards ever. And then I know, Sam, you're going to make the argument for Toronto.
No. Well, actually, I was going to say Miami. But yeah, Toronto's interesting. But if they lose Fred VanVleet and some other guys like Serge Ibaka, then I don't know. It depends on what they do this offseason.
I don't know about Miami.
Yeah, Toronto's like depth might implode this year. A lot of people aren't talking about it, but like they may lose Ibaka and VanVleet.
Yeah, they might fall off.
The three teams
we'll see though.
Bucks in the East are the Brooklyn Nets, the Miami Heat, and the Orlando Magic.
Okay, so
Khem Birch really going to lock down Giannis.
Okay, so let's move into our Eastern Conference grading.
Yep.
But first, let's hear a quick word from our sponsor.
Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. That means 00.00 $. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
All right, so if you haven't already listened to our latest episode, we covered the entire Western Conference and gave our grading individually for each of those teams. And now we're going to go over the entire Eastern Conference. So, Josh, what is the first team in alphabetical order that we'll be covering?
All right, so the first team of the Eastern Conference is the Atlanta Hawks.
And this is relative to how we thought they would be, right?
Yep.
I'm going to say D+, and the only reason I say that is because the young talent didn't develop the way that I was hoping they would. And that's not to say that I think they're bad, but Cam Reddish started off really poorly and got better as the season went on. But to begin the year, he was not good. I really wanted to see more from DeAndre Hunter. Like, you can see a very raw 3-and-D player from DeAndre Hunter. But I think him competing with minutes with Cam Reddish and also Huerter hurt him a lot. We saw what Trae Young did. I mean, Trae Young's going to do that whenever he can at this point. And especially now that you had Clint Capella in that pick and roll game, that could be really interesting to see how Trae Young does with that tandem. And you've also got John Collins. But again, I expected them to potentially be a fringe playoff team because I thought the young talent would kind of come out and surprise people. And I felt like the young talent was kind of mediocre for what I expected from them.
I'll give them a C-. I'm between a C- and a C. I don't really have much input for them, honestly. I do like what I saw from Cam Reddish at the end of the season, though. I think he showed flashes of being a really good NBA player. And DeAndre Hunter is kind of shaping up to what I thought he would be, or at least this season, as a good 3-and-D wing. But he's still young, and he's still got a lot more to go. And Huerter shot the ball really well this year. He looks pretty decent. I don't know what else to say about him. He's pretty okay. And Trae Young continues to shut down my doubting. I thought he would be a bust coming into the NBA. I own up to that take. And then I didn't think he would do as well this year that he did. I'll own up to that take. Also, I'm a big fan of John Collins, and I think he is a bit underrated, but he's also starting to ask for a max contract, and that's a little much considering he's only in his he's barely into his career. And Clint Capella was a good acquisition, and I think he will prove to be a solid fit on that team considering, I mean, if Collins couldn't space the floor, that would be a nightmare situation, but Collins can shoot the ball. So I think that'll work out. So I mean, C-. C. I don't have much to say about them. They do have a good pick this year, though.
Really, you did. My pick, I'd have to give them a B-. Y'all be like, we're gonna give them 1 year, and if they don't, they suck. They are horrible. The players suck. They're all busts.
This was about our expectations going into
Yeah, I
this
know,
year,
I
and
know.
you think they did better than what they should have done.
Correct.
What seed were the
How?
Hawks in the East?
They won like 19 games.
They were
And-
14.
They were the You thought they were going to be hands down the worst team in the East. That's what that means. That's
Well,
what
I don't. Hold
Great.
on. I don't.
I can't wait until we get to like two more teams.
They
more
were the
teams in
14th seed.
In this. Oh, I
Listen,
can't. Two more
To
teams.
be,
in this
fair,
time.
though, to be fair, though, we weren't like you, Nick, and thought they were going to be a fringe playoff
Y'all
team.
didn't think
I
they'd
thought
be
they were an 11 seed.
15 seed.
Listen. I'm not completely basing my grading off of their record, and that's it.
I mean, neither are any of us,
Expectations
but
You did for the Warriors.
They suck. But player-wise, Trae Young has become a star. Not a superstar, but a star. So any team that possesses a star gets him grade up for me. I mean, you have been able to work him from people like Josh thinking he's going to be a bust to, holy crap, this guy can hoop with Luka, right? John Collins, I don't know. I kind of overlook him sometimes just because he just seems more of like a prototype Blake Griffin. DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish, I can't really knock on them because, again, nice guys. Give them 3 months and then, they're done. No more developing for you. The coach, isn't it Lloyd Pierce?
yeah.
Lloyd Pierce is a great coach, in my opinion. I think he does a great job with the young fellow.
Okay.
Clint Capella being added into the team in the middle of the season was a great pickup for them. Semi-veteran big man that can run the pick and roll very well with a player that can shoot is going to be deadly. They didn't get a chance to really showcase it, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen in the middle of the season. I'm going to give them a decent grade because they didn't flop on their backs and say we suck because everyone thinks that the rookies have to be superstars right off the bat. They did a pretty good job.
Okay, so
Well, I mean, I had them as an 11 seed because the rest of the East sucked so bad.
I'm going to go with, I'll say C, because I think they kind of met expectations in a couple of ways. So going into the regular season, I didn't expect them to be the 14th seed, but I also was not expecting them to be like the 9 or 10 seed. I thought they'd finish, middle of the lottery pack in the East, around 12, around that area. And they didn't. They failed to get that high, but they won at the trade deadline by acquiring Clint Capella, and they have one of the best young cores in the league. Like you guys have mentioned, Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, Clint Capella, John Collins, Trae Young. Yeah, I mean, they have Trae Young is an all-star. Everything that you guys have mentioned, I sound like a broken record, but I really don't. Basically, my point is I didn't expect them to be a playoff team, so I can't really knock them that much for it, but they still failed. But I think that they brought themselves to C level due to their big W at the trade deadline for Clint Capella. So I'll finish with a C.
Next team.
Boston.
You know what? I'm going to say Boston gets an A. And I think one of the big reasons I say Boston gets an A is that I literally did not think they would even come close to the conference finals. And when I say that, I don't mean that like they wouldn't make it out of the first round. I more mean that as such, like I just didn't see them as a contender for a team that could actually make the conference finals. I think some things fell into their laps properly, like a lot of Toronto not performing in the playoffs like they did. But Tatum shined this season. Jaylen Brown developed a lot more. I still got to see more from Kemba in the playoffs. Gordon Hayward looks like he might be on his way out. I'm going to give them an A because I think them making the conference finals was a huge step for them.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with an A- because this is about what I thought their ceiling was. Well, I thought their ceiling was NBA Finals, but like this is like the realistic ceiling. I mean, as Nick already said, with all the players. Also, I mean, it's looking like Gordon Hayward apparently could want out of Boston. He got angry with the election results from Massachusetts, so he wants out. Jaylen Brown and Tatum look like one of the best young duos in the league right now, and they're only going to get better. And Kemba's not going to get any worse. This is going to be a good team for a stretch of years. They're also looking to move up in the draft.
I'm going to give the Boston Celtics a B, mainly because, they're almost the most average team I've ever seen in my life.
You hate Boston.
I mean,
It
it's
does
just-
not matter.
It is so ridiculous to me how average they are. But then they go up one letter grade, like I said, because they make the playoffs and they make a little run. It's just like they're the most boring team to watch ever. Like, it's so unfathomably boring. I like Marcus Smart and Kemba Walker, and that's about it. I mean, they're the most boring team ever. There's really not much I can say about that. They're
I
so
don't understand.
I swear I remember you saying that you love watching Tatum. I don't know. I swear I remember you saying that.
Who?
You,
No, who?
Tatum.
I don't know who that is.
I am going to also go with an A minus. I think that going into the season, they had to adjust to a lot of things. The loss of Kyrie, but the addition of Kemba Walker and adjusting Kemba Walker into their offense. They did a pretty good job of that. Also, losing Al Horford turned out to be a pretty big W. They freed some cap space. And Daniel Tice is pretty solid. I mean, I don't know. Al Horford was bad this season, but I still think that Al Horford's better than Tice. But Tice is pretty good.
Tice is just okay.
Yeah, not pretty good. He's a solid
For a
role
starter,
player.
he's just like he's just there.
Yeah,
He's a place filler, but he's okay.
but Tatum is quickly developing into a top player in the league, and he's very young. Jaylen Brown. I mean, they've got a nice trio in Boston right now with some good bench pieces. They executed well this season, so I'm going to give them an A minus.
Our next team, the Brooklyn Nets. This is an interesting one.
Oh, it's so tough with Brooklyn just because so much of their season got impacted by injury. But if we're going off what I've been going off this whole time, based on like how they would have been at the beginning of the season, I'm going to say C. And the only reason I'm not going to go lower than a C is because of the fact that they can't really help getting injured so much. Karis, he didn't seem that massive of an impact, but I'll say C. But next season, they're not going to be a C. They're going to be in that title contention.
They're also getting like a C. Yeah, I'll give them a C. They made the 7 seed, I guess. Well, no, very eventful season. Sorry, injuries, destroying the entire team. Dinwiddie, allowing the fan to donate for his contract to where he will sign next.
Bert made huge steps this season, which is phenomenal for them. Kyrie, when he played, was a dog. Dinwiddie did his thing like always. DeAndre Jordan's kind of seemed.
I wonder if they're going to trade for a third star. That's not really relevant right now, though. So I'm giving them a C.
Okay, you guys are out of your mind. I'm giving them an A+ because I expected this team, once Kyrie got hurt, to go to the gutter, to go to hell with how bad they were going to be. And they ended up having one of the most exciting games of the season at the end of the season with Karis LeVert putting up 40.
One game equals A+.
Listen. And they made the playoffs with Arbo-ass team.
Pause. With I'd C. I mean,
Y'all be like, everyone's average. Everyone gets a C.
no, because they did have
They did
an average
exactly
season.
what I
They
expected
did
them to do.
Yeah, I mean, like Kyrie getting hurt, who was DeAndre Jordan getting hurt. I mean, literally at one point in the season, I think that they had a game where they were playing like a literal G League roster.
No,
and
that was in
they're-
the bubble.
Yeah, that's right.
It
And-
was during the bubble regular season games. They had like two-way players.
And then Karis LeVert. But yeah, I fault them so much for injuries, and that's why I did that with Golden State. But at the same time, the Nets still got a playoff spot. And Spencer Dinwiddie showed out. I mean, he continued to improve from last season. Karis LeVert did the same thing. Obviously, they're in an excellent spot for next season. They met expectations.
Yeah, they stayed about where I thought they'd be. No, I thought they'd lose the 7 to the 8 seed. Next team, the Charlotte Hornets.
They were literally the most uninspired. Literally the only good. Actually,
Let's chill.
no, yeah,
No,
D.
You got it? Oh.
D, because I really liked how Devontae Graham and PJ Washington developed this season. That was a lot of fun to watch. Miles Bridges was cool too, but literally everything else about that team was just abysmal. I literally have nothing else to say about that team. That team was just, we knew they were going to be bad, but I mean, they were just no fun.
They're getting a D or D minus. Devontae, I love watching Devontae Graham. Like watching him just like shot create from 3 all the time. It's really fun to watch. And I also really like PJ Washington. I'm saying the exact same thing Nick said, except when Malik Monk was playing, Malik Monk was just that dude who's like he's just gonna break out this random highlight play. He hit that like double teamed game winner against the Pistons. He had like 5 or 6 different alley-oop one-hand tomahawks, and now he's suspended from the league.
Oh, I forgot about that. Oh my god,
I forgot about that too. Actually, I was just gonna say that. I forgot. I was going to say that I hated. I was going to say that I hated that Charlotte didn't develop him. I totally forgot that he got. Wow,
I forgot about that.
A really easy grade for me. They got an F. No one cares about this team. Not even the people for a reason. This team is so irrelevant. I love Devontae Graham. I will say that he's the only guy I like. He needs to get out of there now because their TV ratings are probably 0%. Not a single Charlotte person that gets free cable that can watch that game for free. You see how empty those seats are? They probably hand out to the homeless people, and they're like, "Hey, go watch this game." And they're like, "I'd rather freeze to death." They're the most garbage, irrelevant team I've ever seen in my entire life. Good job, MJ.
Well, again, considering their expectations, they actually did better than I thought they would, because according to win percentage, they got the 9 seed, but according to the standings, they got the 10 seed. It's just because Washington lost too many games in the bubble. But anyway, Devontae Graham got snubbed of
take James Wiseman or Onyeka Okongwu
votes. He was excellent this season. Like you guys said, PJ Washington. They have a couple good young players, but overall they're a pretty bad franchise and a pretty bad team that's not going to have success for a long time. And so they didn't really do anything. So they get a D+.
Okay, 2 things. First of all, Devontae Graham just like hates shooting 2-pointers. Yes. He's horribly inefficient from 2-pointers. Like he has the same percentage from 3 than he has from 2. And this pick is going to be huge for them this year.
Have to draft well.
I think they should take James Washington.
Chicago, right? Next team is Chicago.
Dude, a D- for me only because Zach LaVine was really good and almost made the All-Star game. They had Humpty Dumpty coaching them for pretty much the entire year. No, for the entire year. He was horrible. One of the worst coaches in recent history. Like, honestly, it was pitiful. He was having beef with the fans. But like everyone in the Chicago organization liked him. It took an entire new GM to get rid of him. Next team
All right,
is
this
the
is going to be
Chicago
controversial. I know
Bulls.
y'all aren't going to agree with me, but I'm going to give this team an F, and here's my reason. That team was DOA, dead on arrival. Nothing about that team went well this season.
So
Zach LaVine hated the coach all year long. Literally none of the players liked their coach all year long. And the Bulls said, yeah, you know what? We're going to keep him until the bubble starts. And they're like, yeah, you know what? We'll just fire everyone. But this whole season, lost. At least with the Charlotte Hornets, I can say they were trying to develop something. The Bulls literally said, we know we got these young guys, okay? We know we got these young guys. And we know that they need to develop. But guess what? We're going to make sure that every player on the court hates this coach, and we're not going to fire him until way too late. We know y'all hate how we're organized, but we're not going to do anything until it's way too late. This was a lost season. I'm not saying this team won't be good next season or that the players won't develop, but this was a lost season. This season was pointless for Chicago, and I feel so bad for every single Bulls fan because this season was nothing.
They won't be good next season.
Hated him. Daniel Gafford on a live stream said he's okay. He can improve. Like, that's ridiculous. If you have people outwardly saying that you're a bad coach, just go away. Like, you are Humpty Alexander Dumpty from Shrek. You
Humpty
are a
Dumpty
horrendous
was in
coach.
Boots. He wasn't in Shrek.
All right, we'll cut that out. And they get they will get a D- just because Zach LaVine's good.
Strictly because
You visited Oregon the other day, didn't you?
Tom Thibodeau, Tim Thibodeau, Zach LaVine. Y'all remember the "Oh no, you're kidding"? Yeah, that was fire. He was a dog, dude. He's solidified himself as a dog. Horrid coach for them. But Zach LaVine was a dog. Y'all remember? Honestly, I can't name a single other player on the team, but Zach dog, so I'm giving him a C-.
I'm giving them borderline F. I'm going to give him a D-. Kellen is, again, one of the worst coaches in recent history. It just sit like all I have to say to sum it up is it was a throwaway year. Zach Levine's great, but Jesus, what an awful year.
Wait, who's Fred Hoiberg coaching?
No one.
I really thought Fred Hoiberg.
He's coaching in
I
college.
thought Fred
now. He's
Hoiberg
coaching in
was the
college
coach. That's
now.
how bad the Bulls coach is.
You
Jim Boylan's a bum, so don't expect me to just be like, "Oh, the coach is a bum." I knew there was either
No,
Jim
I'm
Boylan
just
or
saying,
Fred
like-
Hoiberg.
Y'all haven't was the coach like ago.
I thought it was 6.
That's right. Okay,
1 year ago, 1.5 years ago. He
That's
got he
right.
got fired in the
that's right.
early
That's
part
right.
of 2019.
Next team's Cleveland, right?
Yeah, it is Cleveland.
Cleveland. I'm gonna say. I literally.
There's one answer we all four.
I
should give
low
an answer.
key-
If you guys give anything else, I'm gonna be pissed.
I low key don't even want to give them a grade because their season was so irrelevant this season. Even acquiring, I don't know how a team acquired Andre Drummond and yet somehow they're still just that bad. Like I literally don't see them doing any better next season, even with Andre Drummond. They're low key an F.
I wouldn't
Yeah,
say
wait.
Drummond is
No,
like
I get it,
that
but still, it's
impactful
Andre
to winning
Drummond.
games, but I get what you mean. He's a solid player. He's
I
my
mean,
favorite
like-
player in the league still. I will say that. It may not look like it sometimes, but he is. They managed to acquire Andre Drummond, who might be their future center. He might not. I think he wants to play in a big
He's
market,
gone.
but I'm not entirely sure of that. He very well can just say, "Oh, nope, I'm not taking this player option." He's not getting paid $29 million anywhere else. I'm just saying that.
80s
And
Cavs
free
were
LeBron,
good.
whatever. Well, they were okay. The Cleveland Cavaliers. Post
Free
LeBron.
LeBron too.
Say about the Cavs, I do think Colin Sexton
Quick
has been playing
update.
pretty well. He could honestly, he's going to develop into a good guard in the NBA. He already is. He's scoring 21 points a game already. He's shooting pretty efficiently. Defensively, he's not there yet. And yes, for all the people who are saying, "Oh, he's a lockdown defender," because he had that one video in preseason where he was like being intense on defense. He's not a good defender right now. I'm just letting y'all know.
So
What are we talking about, dude? Freaking Brantley Gilbert or whoever the owner is anymore should just roll over and die. I'm so sick and tired of hearing about this trash franchise.
Wow.
They ruined LeBron's entire career. I'm done hearing about him. The Cleveland fans are trash. Everybody in Cleveland's trash. I'm done hearing about it. They're the most irrelevant. Besides, they and the Hornets should go on vacation together as the worst franchises in NBA history. Period. They're the worst franchises in NBA history. There's nothing else to say about them. They're garbage.
I'm surprised
Josh,
you
what
didn't
did
say
you
the
give
Clippers.
him?
Both of those franchises.
I forgot to actually say what I was giving them. They're getting an F for me. Also, I do want to mention this before. Garland looked very, very bad, but he still showed flashes of being okay.
okay, so yeah, the Cleveland Cavaliers, a franchise irrelevant without LeBron James. Man, what a pity franchise. But anyway, outside of that, they get an F from me. They were just bad. They were awful. Kevin Love is old and reaching washed level. He's not washed yet, but he's reaching it. Andre Drummond is not. I don't think Andre Drummond's going to stay. It's nice. I like Colin Sexton a lot, but other than that, sheesh. F.
Sheesh.
Yeah, sheesh is all I have to say, bro. They're just.
Okay. Please hold back. Please hold back. We
I'm
have
gonna
one
say D
bright
plus
spot.
because I
Please hold
thought
back
they would
and
be
don't
at
give
least
us the next
halfway
one.
decent. But
Yeah.
injuries derailed them a lot. No cap. Drummond getting traded needed to happen because Christian Wood decided to say, "I'm gonna be a future All-Star." He was such a bright spot for that Pistons team this year. But literally, other than that, that team would literally be an F if it wasn't for how Christian Wood developed this season.
Sam will tell you. I've been saying Christian Wood's this level for like since preseason. I need him to resign. If he doesn't resign, I'm gonna be in a weird spot. Counting the days of free agency when he inevitably just goes to like
Oklahoma City
the
Thunder.
Trailblazers for like $9 million, and it's revealed that the Pistons tried to underpay him. I'm judging the days on it. I'm horrified. Okay, but if I'm being real, I think he's going to resign again, unless he gets big money from a contender, which they can't really give him. I think he'll resign in Detroit. The Knicks are incredibly irrelevant. If he goes to the Knicks, that's career
I mean,
over.
the Pistons are pretty irrelevant too.
I'm going to be more optimistic
Good
because I'm
Lord.
like I'm D. It's not an F because one, Christian Wood, and two, we set ourselves up a little bit for the future by like getting off of Drummond's money. Just eating another year of Blake's contract.
Huh?
They met my expectations to the T. And what was that? Never saw a single game.
Hey, you did? Yeah. We went and saw him.
Didn't
in
you
person.
watch them in
Christian
person?
Wood makes Steven Adams look kind of like a boy.
Hey, we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, he did. No, he really did. Actually, I'm gonna bump it up. C plus.
No.
C plus was that
Oh
one
my
game that we went to
God.
and saw Christian Wood go absolutely.
Who
nuts.
won, though? Who
But other
won?
than that, I literally
A rebuilding team with Brandon Knight chucking
I cannot lie
threes
to
by
you,
like
bro.
6 points.
They have to be at least a C or a C plus because they met my expectations, which was there is no memory in my brain of seeing the Detroit Pistons this year.
Sam, what's your rating?
D minus. I think I had them as the 6th seed in the East.
Yeah,
Now that might be a bad
I will even
take,
tell you
but
that. I
either way, I expected them to make the playoffs.
No, before the season started, that wasn't an awful take.
It wasn't
sixth
great.
seed,
It wasn't
that
great,
was
but
a bad take.
either way, I expected them to make the playoffs, at least the 8th seed. And I understand injuries, but like, still, they were just bad. They were a bad team. I guess it was a W for them. It was kind of a win-win situation. B minus.
Well,
Getting hurt. I don't even know what to talk about with this team outside of Christian Wood. Yeah,
say injuries
no.
like injuries
That's
when
why-
Derrick
that's
Rose
why
missed
it's not
like
an
half
F.
the
That's
season
why
with
it's not an
various
F.
injuries, and
why it's not
Blake's
an F.
knees are made out of like pins and
that's why it's not an
and
F,
crushed
because
paper.
if they were healthy, then
Answers?
Okay.
They did exactly what I thought, except Sabonis developed a lot more than I thought. Sabonis took the place that I thought Turner would have, and they also got swept in the first round, which is literally what I expected from the Indiana Pacers. So, yeah.
See, for me, they're just again same thing. They did exactly what I thought they'd do. I had the reasons. It's just Sabonis looked good, and All-Star game, which is pretty shocking.
I
Because the only highlight of their season was Sabonis won against a guard in the skills challenge.
Okay.
Literally, even Indiana Pacer fan base was pissed when they had to go watch them play.
So I will give them a C plus because I think they did a little better than I expected. Getting the 5 seed in the East when I thought they'd get like the 7, but that's also counting Brooklyn and Detroit. So, but anyway, I didn't to develop into an all-star this season. He was hurt, but even when he got back, he was not the same player. Miles Turner continues to high expectations, at least, for him. And Bubble Warren was really cool, but yeah, I mean, the only reason I have them above average is because they did a little better than I thought they would.
Warren was a cool like 2-week thing, and everyone's just like, once they face Jimmy Butler, everyone's just like, Warren's trash. I was not saying he was good 1 week ago. Look at me, I'm cool.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Next, we have Miami.
A plus 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 plus.
Miami
A plus
gets-
plus. A plus
Oh,
plus.
wait, that's you.
Nothing more. We already know what it is. A plus plus.
Plus for me as well, because I had them going as the 7 seed, I believe, and I had them flailing out in the first round of the playoffs. Although I had them having a really bad matchup, but they did so much better than I thought. With, I mean, just drafting Tyler Hero right now is what I expected his peak to be. Maybe a little worse, but and the undrafted signings of, well, they already had Robinson on the roster, and then they signed Nunn. They've just done everything so well, and then of course acquiring Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, it's
A plus because Jimmy Butler smashed me. And,
I'm sure.
me,
Okay.
and,
Okay, nice.
Looks like
This
a
is-
neutron.
This
No,
is
Sheena Estevez.
Well, honestly, I'm gonna give him an A because they made my prediction come true. So A plus.
I'm with an obvious A plus. I think I also had them as a 7. I don't remember my seeding, but they were bottom of the East in the playoffs. As my in, and they went far and beyond that, going to the NBA Finals. Jimmy Butler fit perfectly with that team. Tyler Hero did much better than I expected him to. Bam Adebayo was great. Like, there's so many good things that happened with this team. I also want to point out that ESPN had them 14th in the power rankings heading into the season, which is behind the Spurs. So if that doesn't tell you about how much they overexceeded this season, I don't know what will.
so Bam did exactly what I expected him to do.
Who's the
except a
next
little
team?
better. Milwaukee.
B. Because they did exactly what I thought they'd do in the regular season. Or actually, I'll actually say they did better than what I thought they'd do in the regular season. They were historically good for a really long time. And then postseason came and they just played like garbage. So they're not going to get anything higher than a B solid from me.
B minus for me because again, regular season they were probably an A, but playoffs they were like a D. So they looked so good in the regular season and just underlived all their expectations in the playoffs.
Yeah, sorry to tell you guys, but they get enough.
You
Yeah,
expected
wait.
them to lose to Miami, right? And we're basing it off your expectations.
because I-
So this is
Nice.
bias.
No.
Not be a total garbage can of a human being. So that's where my expectation comes from.
Okay.
Human
He's
being,
awful, guys. He's just god awful. You're really
Dory.
Josh be like a celebrity watched our story. Let's change.
Where is his ego?
Yeah, Nick said that.
Okay, I heard
no,
Nick
I
say
think
that.
that he's a likable person. I think he's a great player. I think he happy for the guy. He
So you
just
say he's
sucks.
a horrible person, but he's a likable person.
No, he's a horrible basketball player. I apologize. It's nothing against like Brian Scalabrine, great dude. Probably racist, but great dude. And sucks at basketball. Like there's nothing wrong with it. You're just not good.
Criteria. James Harden
Incorrect.
also sucks at basketball.
However, I will say that in the words of Stephen A. Smith, he can't play.
Nice.
No
Move
disrespect
on to Sam.
whatsoever. He can't play the game
Sam.
of basketball.
There you go.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, barely though. I mean, they were very good in the regular season. Giannis winning another MVP, but them and yeah, it was very rough. There's not really much more that you guys haven't already said, but they barely exceeded expectations due to the regular season performances.
Hey, can you guys quadruple F
York.
minus? James Dolan. I hope they literally force James Dolan to sell that team, and I hope he gets thrown into the ocean. Literally, that team literally gets nothing to go their way. They are garbage. They are horrible. They're an F and more Fs. Denzel Crawford amounts of Fs.
They're going to find a way to mess up this draft pick, just like they messed up this season. I like RJ Barrett and Mitchell Robinson. Julius Randle was a bad signing. He's a sixth man on a solid team. He's not a starter. He's not a ball handler. He's just a sixth man on a solid team, like he was in New Orleans. They suck. Dennis Smith Jr. just decided to fall off the face of the earth. Ntilikina just has no offensive game. And then hired Thibodeau. Like, how down bad can you be?
What? What the hell's wrong with Tom Thibodeau?
What?
Dude.
Dude, he's a
Minnesota. That's all I will say. Chicago, fine. Minnesota.
Carl Anthony Towns.
Okay.
No, Minnesota. Why does Karl Anthony Towns get all of the blame and Andrew Wiggins
Who
gets
is
none
that?
of it? I find
What'd you say?
Who is that?
Okay. Go ahead.
I
what
say F.
Doc,
Mainly because they let Julius Randle touch the ball for more than 2 times a game. That man is just trash. I mean, he's abominable at the game. I never want to see that man again. He is just.
I think
bad.
it's funny that he averages like what 19 and 9.
Like, Kwame Brown could average 19 and 9 on that trash ass team. When you get 50 touches and 75 shots, you're down to drop 20 of them.
So I'm gonna give him an F. No.
He does okay. Like defensively, he's good. Defensively, he is good. If he develops a shot, he's going to be like a rotational player.
He will not touch the floor in OKC.
No,
sucks.
no, there is no
He
one worse than
sucks.
him.
Abdel Nader
No
is
one. I've never watched that man make a shot in my life.
Nice.
Jim
He's
brings this up every time that we bring him up. Nick's gonna say Rolf Nader next, but anyway. So yeah, they're an awful franchise.
that boy's not going to the Knicks. Stop it. This is cap.
That Chris Paul might get traded to the Knicks
He won't go there. He will not.
for Fortnite Man himself, Kevin Knox, and garbage can Frank Neil.
The Magic. This grade
This is pretty much
predetermined.
as average as you can get. They're going to be a C. Although I do like Jonathan Isaac, but it's really unfortunate because his leg is just imploding on itself. Again, I figured they'd make the playoffs from where they were at,
No,
but did I not? Did
that
I not
is
say they'd
such
fight
cap.
for? Did I
You
not
did
say they'd
not.
fight for a playoff spot? I didn't say they'd be a 15 seed.
You just said now you thought they'd make the playoffs, and you did not think they would make the playoffs.
Yeah, because I thought the Hawks would be better, but I thought Orlando would be right behind them.
No.
What they exactly want. They have found a way to be, and they are just like, hey, we're going to be average like every single year. We're going to make an 8 seed. We're going to have an okay record. We're going to get embarrassed in the playoffs. We're just going to suck. But hey, we made the playoffs and we get a 16th pick now. And then we're going to use this on a player who gets hurt. Oh my gosh, the Magic. They try to be mediocre. I like Jonathan Isaac a lot. And no one's talking about it, but Chuma Okeke next year, they picked him in the first round last year, had to sit out the whole year. He could be a solid contributor next year.
I'm gonna give him a
because it is quickly becoming a factor that DJ Augustine plays for me. Because it seems that every year when I say that a team is hot garbage, he says, all right, then I'm
nope. Stopping you right there. Last year, you did not say Toronto was hot garbage. You didn't say that. You never did. Not once. Because
No.
guess who was? It's almost like you were rooting for them in the Eastern Conference Finals last year.
But DJ Augustine,
That's really weird. I remember you wearing the Toronto Vince Carter jersey that I own to beat-ups last year to go root for Toronto.
Yeah, because I hated
So quit with that.
Yeah, because I hated the Warriors. Anyway, he's hooping on you losers. He's a
Okay.
whole bucket.
Yeah, DJ Augustine might be. I think he probably. I can't
Yeah.
think of a more average point guard. He may not be the most average player, but he's the most average point guard in the entire
Mark my
NBA right
words.
now. He's a solid player,
Mark my words.
but he's just
He's all-star this
average.
year. Write it down.
Oh my.
38-year-old DJ
Hey,
Augustine.
I think honestly, I'm thinking that Jordan Bone is going to be an all-star. He's showing me some flashes. He's going to make the
So-
all-star game. Mark my words.
I'm going to go with a C+ because they gave Milwaukee one game, and I also didn't think Orlando would make the playoffs. So they barely exceeded my expectations and the NBA's expectations. And also, I feel bad for Jonathan Isaac. He's so good, but it's just injuries, man. But my last thing I want to say about the Magic is that Nikola Vucevic is possibly right now. He is
Yeah.
right. He's right there.
Yeah, it's DJ Augustine. DJ Augustine.
Most under.
He's up there player wise.
I think he'd be a good. He'd be a good trade
Yes,
acquisition.
he would
for a
fit
lot of
perfectly
teams.
on a contender.
like Golden
He would
State.
fit perfectly.
But-
Oh yeah, that would be. Sheesh. That
Five
would be
facing the
deadly.
floor. But he can also play.
All right, what's the next team?
I think it's Philly. He could have been an Eastern Conference Finals contender, and I was with them on that. And then I realized something. Al Horford got paid $30 million a year to literally be bald.
Okay.
Tobias Harris gets paid $30 million a year to be inconsistent. Now, I know a lot of people are going to point out the fact that they got swept in the first round, and I'm going to give them some leeway. Not having Ben Simmons is huge, apparently, for that team. It is massive to not have Ben Simmons out on that court. Defensively, he was lost. Offense is missed. So clearly that's a factor. But that Philly team literally did nothing that people wanted them to do. They struggled all year. They were a 6 seed for quite a bit. That team is a D- for me. The only reason they're not an F is because they were still a good team, but they way underperformed for what they should have been.
They're also getting a D plus from me. I am one of the. They have the potential to be one of the best defensive teams ever. Oh man, that is looking rough. Ben Simmons looks really good right now, and if they trade, Sam has this weird obsession where it's like, guys, Ben Simmons is going to OKC. I'm going to pre-order the jersey and everything.
It's not happening.
It's not happening. If they trade Ben Simmons for Chris Paul and picks, like, you're trading a elite unicorn of a point guard who's also extremely young. He can't shoot yet. Guys, he can't shoot. He's bad. No, Ben Simmons has an impact on every single other facet of basketball outside of his shooting. It's just everything else just imploded. They sucked.
I say D plus because they almost were what I expected them to be, but they didn't make the Eastern Conference Finals, which was disappointing. I love Ben Simmons. Josh Richardson's okay. Kind of wish he was still in Miami because no one really cares about him. Al Horford in Boston because he's racist. His hair is always fun. He never has his hair.
He's gone.
He's not there anymore. He doesn't coach.
Yeah, okay, make one comment. Feast on my soul. Go ahead.
Who is the coach of Philly right now?
No, apparently it doesn't matter.
It's D'Antoni.
Yeah. Or no, it is Doc Rivers.
Doc Rivers.
It's my favorite team.
Yeah.
My favorite team's next.
Okay. I'm going to say D plus.
So
hasn't been said.
So glad we stayed on topic.
Didn't have Ben Simmons in the playoffs, so I don't think they should have got swept, but it swept still, and they definitely underperformed expectations. But it's okay because Simmons will be in an OKC jersey next year because Daryl Morey will be fiending for James Harden, so there will be a 3-way trade. Calling it, what's the date today? November 7th? Yeah, November 6th. So there will be a team trade that involves the Houston Rockets, the 76ers, and the OKC Thunder. And it will land James Harden in Philadelphia and Ben Simmons in OKC. It will be the trade of the offseason. I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait. Ben Simmons is phenomenal, dude.
Trading James Harden and they aren't getting Ben Simmons back. What are they getting back? So the Sixers are trading Ben Simmons and Embiid for Harden.
And Chris Paul.
So they're just the worst Rockets. They're the worst Rockets. And Chris Paul. So they're the worst 2018 Rockets with Shake Milton starting center. No, Al Horford, sorry. If they do that, oh my gosh, that team would just...
Next is Toronto, right?
Horrible.
Oh, wait.
D-, and here's why I say that. In terms of regular season performance, they get an A for me because I very heavily undervalued that I thought would be a massive impact for the Raptors, which it would in the playoffs. But during the regular season, they did great. And then you get to the playoffs, and Pascal Siakam decided to become a dryer. Kyle Lowry became too thick. Terrence Davis said, my basketball career, I don't need that anymore. Lit itself during the playoffs, unfortunately. Pascal Siakam, considering the playoffs he had the year before, was probably the biggest disappointment besides Paul George in those playoffs.
I mean, I don't know if we're saying
I'm going to be.
But what I will say is, you're saying the entire playoffs, and that's not true.
Sam, Pascal Siakam played like a bomb.
No, I'm not saying Siakam. I'm saying the Toronto Raptors. You said that they imploded on themselves the entire playoffs.
Congrats. In the first round, you get an injury-riddled Brooklyn Nets.
Hey, bro, Milwaukee played Orlando, and they looked like trash. So that's why I'm just saying that. No, they didn't look good that whole series.
They looked very meh. No, they looked pretty
good
meh.
ending.
But I also said Milwaukee was a
pretty
D.
meh, but
I
then
said
they looked
Milwaukee
good
was a D in
ending.
the playoffs. And I'm telling you right now that Toronto was a D in the playoffs.
Okay, whatever. You're not.
They'll get a B minus. It's the same reasoning. Although I'd say they were great in the regular season, especially for their expectations. Although I had them finishing with a pretty high record, not this high of a record. But playoff time, I'm a big fan of Siakam, and he was really, really, really bad. Like really. I can't. He was bad. And then Kyle, he was really good for most of the playoffs. Not all of it. Anunoby just they fell apart in the playoffs, and then they might lose a bunch of depth, which could really kill them for next season.
I'm going to go ahead and give him an F.
Yeah, I was gonna say
This was very predictable.
I've been
Can't button real
they're
quick.
hot trash, and we're like, oh my god, guys, they might make the finals. They're so good. Oh my god, guys,
They made the second round.
So how does that fail your expectations if you thought they'd be bad?
Because my
I was gonna say, if you thought they'd be bad, also the Sixers
My
lost in the first round, and they get a D minus. They get a D plus.
Analysts, friends know that, so I must be wrong. So this is not my expectation. And then they flew out.
Again, this you gave Philly a D plus.
Philly
They
is
lost
not
in the
Toronto.
first round.
Okay,
Correct.
that's not a.
But it's based off of your expectations, not our
reigning
expectations.
champions.
Off your expectations.
No,
Tim-
stop saying y'all said it to you.
No, and then I said, no, they're hot poop.
So then why do they get an F? That makes no sense.
Because
But it's
Respectfully,
your
Cleveland's doing anything,
expectations.
still I'll give them an F.
I'm not even. I know you're kidding.
I'm gonna give them because they were very good in the regular season. Norman Powell, he's a very good. Wait, pause.
Oh,
Pause.
okay.
Pause.
Dude,
Pause.
That's what we call-
Pause. Pause.
is-
Pause.
Yikes.
Pause.
That's why
Pause.
Sam likes
Pause.
the Raptors.
Norman Powell is a fun player to watch. He's a great role player off the bench. His production when he gets the minutes is amazing. He's a great player to watch. But anyway, the Toronto Raptors, I thought that they would go to the Eastern Conference Finals, and I thought they'd lose, but I thought that they would go to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they almost did. They lost in a very, very close Game 7 to the Boston Celtics in the second round, but they still pretty sure I had them as a low Eastern Conference team playoff wise. So they didn't really but they did in the playoffs. So I give them a B because they had a great season without Kawhi.
Final.
I'm going to give them an F. And the reason I say that is because I can't give them a D because they didn't have it all year long. Can't give them something they didn't have. They turned into the 1980s Denver Nuggets. Bradley Beal was literally the only good thing on that team. And Tim was. Tim was also a very good shooter on that team all year long.
Hachimura. Don't disrespect Hachimura.
Hachimura
But
was
still, I can't give
but
them
he was good. He was
something they
solid.
don't have. I
Uh,
can't give them a D because they had no D.
yeah, as Nick is saying, they are like one
Ever.
of the worst defensive teams ever. They had no defense. Bertans and Beal, great on offense. Okay, I can't say solid. They were for their
That's a weird way
expectations.
to
They were great on offense. Defensively, they were horrible. Just like defensible, like they just weren't there. They're like, hey, here's a free lane to the basket, score. Now we're gonna shoot a 3-pointer and it'll probably go in. Well, I mean, they had Isaiah Thomas for like a lot of the season. That may have contributed, but like it's the entire team. Like we can't blame this on Isaiah. And everyone's like, oh, Isaiah's a horrible defender. Yeah, he's a horrible defender. He's 5'9". but he wasn't their only problem on defense. Hachimura looked good, and Troy is a good prospect.
I'm going to go ahead and give him a C. I think that the Washington Wizards, it's hard to describe I think that John Wall played great this year.
Unbelievable.
He really carried the team to past where they would have been if they had some random guy like Bradley Beal playing with them.
Okay.
Can you hurt and they have to be in the hands of Bradley Beal? I can't even imagine watching that. That
Can you imagine laughing?
was a horrible thing to watch of all time. I can't give him anything lower than a C. Just and John Wall.
Bradley Beal was the only highlight
How
from
did-
that
how
team.
Gives him the highlight.
Okay, so Bradley Beal was the only highlight team. Although Hachimura is one of my favorite rookies from that class. But, yeah. But
Really?
outside of that, you guys have said it all. They're a really bad defensive team. It's fun watching Bradley Beal drop 50 and lose, but outside of that, they were a really bad team.
You know what's crazy? I didn't know.
Hmm.
The Wizards actually did not finish last
What?
game. The Atlanta
Seriously?
Hawks.
Wait, who was it?
They were
Trae
on
Young's the worst
defense.
defender in the NBA.
Yeah, they played the like
If they
They
play
played
each other
hide and
next
seek on
season,
defense.
the game that finishes 160 to 150. I would not be surprised.
no, because they won't score the ball that much.
You don't think so?
Wizards, I don't think they'll see.
Is that all the teams, by the way?
Yep.
All right. Well, that's going to conclude, guys, so much for listening once again. I think it's been a little bit since we've put out an episode. Keep following us on our Instagram page, following us on TikTok, keep following us on Twitter. Shout out Giannis, who we just found out viewed our along with Ben Wallace.
And
Awesome
Rashard
stuff.
Lewis.
Rashard
Rashard Lewis reposted us,
Yeah,
bro.
Rashard Lewis.
That
Yeah.
is the ultimate. I mean, Thunder players, bro. I mean, they're so great. Rashard Lewis, thank you, bro.
Again, we appreciate the continued support for the podcast. Thank you guys so much. Keep sending in viewer messages. That was fun to talk about for the beginning. Even though it got us sidetracked, it was still very nice. Sometimes it's nice to talk about other stuff before we talk about the main topic, and it's not so monotonous. Thank you guys so much for tuning
Hold
in.
on. So be sure to expect some off-season episodes, and we will definitely. Yep.
We got the draft
The
coming up
draft as
soon.
well. So these
Less than 2
next
weeks,
couple of
less than 2
episodes will
weeks.
definitely be focusing on the draft, giving our analysis on the draft, and then also giving our updates on the offseason and our thoughts and predictions and things like that. So look forward to that.
Takes on this draft.
So with that being said, thank you guys so much for listening, and as always, have a good one.